Here's my ranking of the 5 best NBA teams of all time. I know this topic is a bit controversial, as everyone has their own top 5 teams of all time, so here's how I ranked my top 5 teams. I look at what the team accomplished that season. Needless to say, they must have won a championship to be in the list. Sorry, 73 wins Warriors. I look at the regular season record, the playoff record, the players on the team, and how they would match up with other all-time teams. And finally, the era the team played in. The teams I've chosen all had multiple year runs and won multiple championships, which wasn't a criteria, but they just so happened to make my list. Just to reiterate, this isn't a random list. This is actually ranking my top 5 teams. Team number 5, the 2017 Warriors. I know this may be a bit premature, but this Warriors team had one of the all-time great seasons, winning 67 games in the regular season and then going undefeated through the Western Conference. They lost one game in the finals when they were up 3-0, so that loss almost doesn't count. Granted, they did play an injured Western Conference with Kawhi Leonard out of the West Finals and other guys out in the first and second round. But this team was on a mission from day one, and they got the job done. I put them at number 5 with the possibility of moving up. This is only year 1 of this super team. Who knows how much better they can get. I don't see anyone beating them in the next few years either. Team number 4, the 1986 Celtics. The Boston Celtics were one of the best basketball teams of all time, led by a front court with 4 of the NBA's 50 greatest players ever: Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, and Bill Walton. Granted, Walton wasn't in his prime, but still. The Celtics won 67 regular season games, taking basketball to an art form with their nightly clinics, regardless of who they played. Larry Bird won his 3rd consecutive NBA MVP award by averaging 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists, while playing with many Hall of Famers by his side, and he won Finals MVP that year also. After dominating through the Eastern Conference, losing just once, the Celtics beat the Houston Rockets in 6 games in the finals with a devastating rout in Game 6 at the Boston Garden. Bird had a triple-double in the clincher, leading the Celtics to their 16th title. Team number 3, the 1987 Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers finished the regular season with a league-best 65-17 record. Head coach Pat Riley made a pair of strategical moves, shifting the offensive focus to Magic Johnson while acquiring center Michael Thompson via trade midway through the season. Both moves alleviated the load off of the aging Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who turned 40 during the playoffs. Also taking a greater role in the Showtime offense were AC Green and Byron Scott. The Lakers' path to the finals proved to be smooth, as they swept the Denver Nuggets in the first round, defeated the Warriors in 5 games during the second round, and swept the Seattle Supersonics in the conference finals. The Lakers and the Celtics matched up again in the NBA Finals, in what turned out to be the final Lakers-Celtics matchup of the Showtime era. The Lakers routed Boston in the first 2 games, and the Celtics won Game 3 and seemed poised to win Game 4 before Magic Johnson's memorable baby sky hook in the middle of the lane, with time running out as the Lakers took a 107-106 victory in Game 4. The Lakers wrapped up the title in 6 games, and Magic Johnson was named NBA Finals MVP. Team number 2, the 1996 Chicago Bulls. I know. How are the 96 Bulls not number 1? We'll get to that later when I get to my number 1 team. But there's no doubt that this team was a beast. The team won 72 games in a season and only lost 3 playoff games. MJ was in his prime along with Scottie Pippen and the rest of the team. MJ was on a mission that season after losing to the Magic the previous year when MJ came back at the end of the season after his baseball career. MJ played in all 82 games and averaged 30 points per game. The Bulls led the NBA in both offensive and defensive efficiency, with MJ winning the league's MVP award. Chicago also outscored opponents by an average of 12.2 points per game. Some say it's the best team ever, but not in my book. On a side note, I know a lot of debate has been going on in sports media about the Warriors versus those Bulls. I just want to say, those Warriors would have no chance against those Bulls. MJ defending Steph, Rodman on Draymond Green, Pippen on Durant, and Harper on Thompson. I'm pretty sure they'll lock them down. The Warriors would get theirs, but I think the Bulls would stop them eventually. With those four defenders, I'm pretty sure they'd be able to lock down those four superstars. That Bulls team was known as a defensive team, and this team is known as an offensive team. So those Bulls would be able to lock down those Warriors. But I don't think the Warriors would be able to do the same against those Bulls. And finally, team number 1, the 2001 Los Angeles Lakers. My top-ranked team of all time is the Shaq and Kobe Lakers. Yes, over the 96 Bulls. The Lakers didn't do too hot in the regular season, only winning 56 games, but they dominated the playoffs. They swept through the Western Conference at a time where the West was at its strongest it had ever been. They lost one game in the finals to the 76ers after being off for so long after sweeping the West. The East was the weaker conference during that time, so to me, they gave that game away. They should have went undefeated. The biggest factor of why I rank them number 1 is matchups. All the other teams I listed on this list could not stop both Shaq and Kobe during that time. They were both in their prime. During the regular season, both Shaq and Kobe were in the top 5 in scoring, both averaging over 28 points per game. And these dudes only turned it up once the playoffs came. Shaq during the postseason was averaging 30 points per game, 15 rebounds a game, and 3 assists a game. Kobe during the postseason was averaging 30 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, and 6 assists a game. They combined for 60 points. At a time where, as I already mentioned, the West was loaded. Looking at the other teams on this list and matchups against this Laker team, maybe MJ could have slowed down Kobe, but who on the Bulls would be stopping Shaq? The Warriors would have no chance guarding Shaq, as they have no bigs. Kobe would get his too, as he's seen better defenders than Steph Curry or Klay Thompson. The '86 Celtics had a great front court, and may be able to manage Shaq, but not completely stop him. But they also had no great guards to stop Kobe. The Showtime Lakers had Kareem, who would go back at Shaq, but he couldn't stop Shaq. Plus Kareem was 40 already, as I mentioned earlier. Same with Magic. He could go at Kobe, but Kobe would still get his on Byron Scott and Michael Cooper. To add to all of this, I think the early to mid-2000s had some of the toughest competition in the NBA. In the 80s, it was pretty much the Lakers and the Celtics, which is why they were in the finals almost every year. In the 90s, it was the Bulls and everyone else. The Bulls had competition, but the Bulls were just that much better. The 2000s had the Spurs, Blazers, and Kings, all in the West, and all legit title contenders. And the Lakers swept them all. The Spurs had the Twin Towers with Duncan and Robinson. The Kings were the Kings back then, with Chris Webber, Mike Bibby, Peja Stojakovic, that free-flowing offense. And then the Blazers, the Jailblazers, with Rasheed and Scottie Pippen, Damon Stoudemire. They took the Lakers to 7 games the year before, but the Lakers swept them this time. Those are just 3 of the monster teams I'm mentioning in the Western Conference. They also had a young KG in Minnesota and a Dirk Nowitzki in Dallas. The competition in the Western Conference during the early 2000s was some of the best I've ever seen. Not to mention what could have been with this team. This team won 3 straight titles, and should have won more if Shaq and Kobe weren't bickering all the time and actually gotten along off the court. Because of their constant bullshit and feuding, the dynasty ended way too soon. With the most dominant player since Wilt and the second coming of MJ, who was going to be stopping them? No one could stop them then. If they would have stayed together, who knows? Which is why I rank this team number 1 all time. With those guys in their prime, with that team in their prime, name a team who's stopping them. So that's it. That's my ranking all time. The Lakers are the greatest team ever. So that's it. Disagree with me? Let the debate begin in the comments below. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And subscribe if you want. It'd be cool. Just saying. This has been a basketball public service announcement, and I'm out. Peace.
These is facts, bruh.